top stories. Government officials say a consultative approach is the key to their success. USVI governor issues executive order to cut government spending, and the world's biggest cybersecurity conference is underway in San Francisco. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today's Thursday, February 16, 2017. I'm Jason Davis, sitting in for Shaira Flanders. Nationally, today, February 16, 2017, marks the second anniversary of the Team Unity Coalition's victory at the polls, and members of the federal cabinet say the camaraderie within the tripartite coalition remains as strong as ever. During a recent radio interview, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Deputy Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and Minister of Public Infrastructure, the Honorable Ian Liburd, were asked how they have managed to keep the Team Unity government together. Prime Minister Harris said much of it has to do with the fact that important aspects of the coalition, including the leadership, programs, and policies, were ironed out way in advance of the general elections.
Before we got together, we had opportunities for reflection and for determination of how we want to govern. And in the past, both in St. Kitts and Nevis, under Labour and in RP, and the governments before that, it had been the outcome of elections that drove those parties together in a coalition. In our case, uniquely, we came together before a general election and made a determination. We made a determination as to who the leader would be, because that was a source of public concern. We made a determination with respect to what our programs will be. And you will note that we went into the general election with a single manifesto outlining our agenda at the federal level.
He also spoke of the level of support that exists between Minister Richards as leader of the People's Action Movement, Premier Amory as leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, and himself as leader of the People's Labour Party.
As leaders, we respect each other and we understand our respective role. They understand their role to guide, support me, and help me to lead along the best path that we have collectively determined. So I say thank you to them, to all of the colleagues.
The three political parties came together in 2013 under the banner of Team Unity with the goal of unseating the Denzel Douglas-led St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration. On February 16, 2015, the electorate voted for a change and paved the way for the formation of a government of national unity. Members of Parliament met at the National Assembly chambers on Thursday for another sitting of National Assembly. The order paper listed Attorney General the Honourable Vincent Byron down to introduce and have read a first time the Land Registry Bill 2017. The Land Registry Bill aims to establish National Land Registry and to provide for electronic searches, the preservation of records, and related matters. The sitting comes as part of the week of activities to mark the second anniversary of the Government of National Unity. In his presentation, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris spoke of the government's accomplishments in the 2 years since taking office, highlighting the importance of good governance. The National Assembly was carried live on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM and ZIZ Television Channel 5 in St. Kitts or 98 in Nevis. It was also streamed live at www.zizonline.com. In other news, police officials are hopeful that the crime detection rate will be increased with the new Crime Reporter app, which was launched on Wednesday under the theme #EmpowerSKN. The launch of the app, which forms part of the government's efforts in crime fighting, can be used to anonymously report offenses to the local police. Tips can be given using text and/or pictures, and every report will be quickly reviewed by dispatches at the nearest police station. District A Commander of the police force, Cromwell Henry, explained the app briefly and said that it'll be very useful to the general public and the police force.
The app allows them to report on future crimes. That is, if you overhear a conversation, somebody is planning to do something, you can alert the police and say, hey, I overheard Tom planning to rob this person or to break this place tomorrow or tonight. and you could send that information to the police as a future crime. There's also a category to report past crimes. If a crime has already been committed and you have information as to who committed it or where stolen items might be, you could also report on that.
He said you can also anonymously report a crime in progress. Mr. Henry said that in addition to the categories outlined, persons can also use the app to give a crime tip. He encouraged citizens to use the app just as they would use Crime Stoppers at 1-800-TIPS. Louisa Isaac of Keon celebrated another birthday on Wednesday, making her 103 years old. Affectionately known as Mother Isaac, she was surrounded by family members, friends, and ministry officials, including Minister of Social Services and Representative for Constituency Number 8, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. Deputy Director of Social Services Ann Wigley congratulated the centenarian on another birthday. She also commended those who took care of her, including her son and caretaker, Richard Isaac.
She is making 103. So she's 103, batting well. And from looking at her, you can see she's still looking quite handsome, beautiful. So from the Ministry of Social Development, Community and Gender Affairs, we bring you greetings. And to the family who are looking after you so well, especially Richard. Thank God for him, and we continue to pray for you, Richard, because you're doing a wonderful job.
Minister Hamilton thanked Mother Isaac for her contribution to his upbringing and many others within the Keon community. He wished her a happy birthday, long life, and continued good health.
I wish you every good health, strength, as you continue your sojourn on this earth. And I would hope that your children will also be strengthened by the fact that you yourself has been a good guide for them through the Christian faith, even to this day. Thank you, and happy birthday to you.
Louisa Isaac was born on February 15, 1914. On the regional scene, U.S. Virgin Islands Governor Kenneth Mapp has taken steps to reduce the cost of government operations, given that cash revenue flowing into the Treasury is insufficient to meet current expenses. Noting that the 32nd Legislature continues to deliberate on his 5-year economic recovery plan, which is designed to eventually eradicate the territory's ongoing structural deficit, Mapp's executive order cites the need for immediate and comprehensive action to reduce current spending, while ensuring to the extent possible that essential services to protect public health, safety, and welfare are preserved. The executive order freezes all non-essential hiring in all executive branch departments and agencies, and also suspends all wage negotiations. Until further notice, the order suspends non-essential travel paid for out of government's general fund and directs heads of departments and agencies to limit 24-hour use of non-emergency government vehicles to employees whose functions are essential and require use of government vehicles after work hours on a regular basis. The order takes effect immediately and will terminate when a subsequent written executive order is issued by the governor. 21 Peace Corps volunteers are set to begin a 2-year stint with Guyana's Ministry of Health in the fields of mental health and healthy practices. Here's more.
The Young American Volunteers are among 38 persons who arrived in Guyana to commence their 2-year service in a number of sectors. And according to the local Director of Training and Programming, Melanie Ingalls, the 21 persons, some trained nurses, will be deployed in 7 out of the 10 administrative regions. But before deployment, they will undergo a 10-week orientation.
And then the volunteers go to those communities, work with their counterparts who are the health professionals there to really identify what are some of the stubborn issues that might need a more effort, a more creative approach to getting out and really helping people see how they have their own responsibility for their health care and how we can help them live healthier lives.
The Peace Corps volunteers possess a wealth of expertise dealing with issues. The young American volunteers are among 38 persons who arrived in Guyana to commence their 2-year service in a number of sectors. And according to the local director of training and programming, Melanie Ingalls, the 21 persons, some trained nurses, will be deployed in 7 out of the 10 administrative regions. But before deployment, they will undergo a 10-week orientation.
And then the volunteers go to those communities, work with their counterparts who are the health professionals there to really identify what are some of the stubborn issues that might need a more effort, a more creative approach to getting out and really helping people see how they have their own responsibility for their health care and how we can help them live healthier lives.
The Peace Corps volunteers possess a wealth of expertise dealing with issues of teenage pregnancy and suicide, a common issue mostly in the hinterland regions. One of the volunteers, Jocelyn Valencia, explained that while this is her first time in Guyana, she had been volunteering most of her life, even as a nurse.
Experience in mental health, so when she was talking about suicide prevention, I've worked at that on home, but I also worked in an ER, which is...
Internationally, the world's biggest cybersecurity conference is underway in San Francisco. There's widespread concern about evolving threats to online security, not only for things like hacking bank accounts and email addresses, but challenges to the institutions of government and society. More in this report.
For many of the 40,000 tech professionals attending the cybersecurity conference, the threat of state-sponsored hacking and cyber warfare is topic number one. The head of a congressional committee on homeland security raised an alarm.
I'm going to be brutally honest. We are in the fight of our digital lives, and we are not winning. It's clear to me that our adversaries are turning digital breakthroughs into digital bombs. And from Russian and Chinese hacking to brand name headaches, our cyber rivals are overtaking our defenses.
In recent years, major hacks suspected of being sponsored by hostile states have hit U.S. companies and government agencies, including Sony Pictures, Yahoo, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. tax agency, the IRS. By far the most ominous breach was the hack of the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton's campaign staff. The U.S. government blamed the Kremlin, saying it was approved at the highest level. Russia denied culpability.
Our democracy itself is at risk. Last year, there's no doubt in my mind that the Russian government tried to undermine and influence our elections.
That attack initiated a ripple that ultimately rocked the foundations of a democracy.
Speakers proposed combating state-sponsored hacking by beefing up government defenses and setting up a separate cyber attack agency. They also urged greater cooperation between government and an often suspicious tech sector, as well as striking back when appropriate.
What we need now is a digital Geneva Convention.
Microsoft President Brad Smith proposed an international pact based on 20th century agreements that attempted to regulate conventional warfare.
For over 2/3 of a century, the world's governments have been committed to protecting civilians in times of war. But when it comes to cyber attacks, nation-state hacking has evolved into attacks on civilians in times of peace.
In dollar terms alone, the cost of hacking and online fraud is staggering. Experts here calculate that cybercrime will cost an estimated $3 trillion in economic losses by the year 2020. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, San Francisco.
Senior U.S. Republican leaders are refusing to consider a call by Democrats for an independent investigation into ties between the Trump administration and Russia. It follows the resignation of Michael Flynn, the National Security Advisor, on Monday, who was accused of holding diplomatic talks with Russia before Donald Trump took office, which is illegal under U.S. law. Here's more.
Despite firing him just days earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump is now defending his former National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, blaming the news media and lashing out at U.S. intelligence agencies.
Things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act. People are trying to cover up for a terrible loss that the Democrats had under Hillary Clinton.
Trump requested Flynn's resignation after leaks from intelligence officials to media outlets that Flynn had contact with the Russian ambassador prior to taking office and misled the vice president about those discussions.
The president knew for weeks about this and let General Flynn stay on in his full capacity, present at and participating in the highest level of national security discussions until those reports were made public.
The FBI is still investigating the claims, but a top Republican is downplaying the need for further independent inquiry and defending Flynn's actions prior to Trump taking office.
With respect to Michael Flynn talking to other governments in the transition, that's his job. That's what he's supposed to be doing.
Late Tuesday, the New York Times reported, quoting unnamed intelligence sources, that it wasn't just Flynn in contact with Russian officials, but also Trump campaign staff and associates in the lead up to the U.S. election. Democrats on Capitol Hill held what they called an emergency meeting to push again for an independent inquiry into what they say are new revelations of broader ties between the Trump administration and Russia that went unaddressed for weeks. Democrats have also announced, along with some Republicans, legislation that, if passed, would limit Trump's ability to lift sanctions on Russia.
The last thing the United States should be considering in the face of this provocation is dialing back sanctions on Russia now. If anything, we should probably increase them.
Trump's statements, along with a flurry of posts on Wednesday on Twitter, may be an effort to shift focus away from suggestions of a possible White House link to Russia to a new narrative that allegations of ties to Russia are nothing more than Democratic conspiracy designed to damage Trump politically. Kimberly Helkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
And now for the weather. Present weather is sunny. Temperatures will peak today at 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are from the east-southeast at 11 to 14 miles per hour. And today is expected to remain mostly sunny. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy. Sunset today will be at 6:13 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow at 6:37 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.